The DR650, does it make a good supermoto? A lot of people think it makes a shitty supermoto, but I beg to differ. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about today with a little bit of comparisons. So what's up, guys? MotardSteve here. And today we're going to be talking a bit about a couple bikes and about supermotos. So, I hear sometimes, a lot of people tell me, I hear this, why'd you get a DR650 as a supermoto? That sounds like a horrible idea. And yes, I will admit, it is one of the more rare bikes to see as a supermoto. And it has its reasons. But I kind of wanted to compare the DR650 with at least two more popular bikes. And first off, let me start this video off by saying that I'm not a bigot. I'm not a fanboy of any kind. All the bikes I'll be mentioning, the two other bikes I'll be mentioning, are great fucking bikes. They really are. And they all make really great fucking supermotos, including my bike. But they all do it for different reasons, and it really depends on who you ask whether their opinion is going to be that it's a good bike or not for being a supermoto. Now, so basically the reason why I chose the bikes I did is because I feel like they give a good spectrum of the supermoto range or whatever, I don't know. And that's basically the Yamaha WR450F, the the Suzuki DRZ400, and of course, what Daisy is here, a Suzuki DR650. And the reason why I'm choosing these three bikes is because the Yamaha's at one end and the DR is at another, and the DRZ is kind of like the middleman. And basically what I mean by that, the way I'm going to be kind of talking about these bikes is in regards to what is called the motorcycle triangle of life. It's a term I heard another moto vlogger use, and it makes a hell of a lot of sense. And what that basically is imagine you have a triangle. Oh, hey, there's a nice bike. I fucking didn't even notice that. Imagine you have a triangle. And at each point of the triangle, you've got like a characteristic. And the way the motorcycle triangle of life goes is at one point, you've got performance. At another, you've got reliability. And at another, you've got price or value, whichever one you want to use. And, we'll go ahead and start with the WR450. And we're talking about, of course, all these bikes as they pertain to being a supermoto. We're not talking about, their practical uses or anything like that. We're strictly speaking supermotos. So we got the WR450F, which out of all these bikes is the most technologically advanced and has the most high-tech shit put into its design. It's the only fuel-injected bike. It has the best suspension out of the other bikes, and it has the most impressive power to weight ratio. So basically, the WR's triangle of life really favors performance. Now, with it being a Yamaha, it also is a good bit reliable, but as far as it pertains to all the bikes that we're talking about, it is the least reliable out of all the bikes we're referring to in this example. So that's the way the triangle works, though. You can really only have 2 points, and every bike is going to miss out on one of those points. And the WR just really misses out on price, because the WR can be pretty expensive, considering that, say if you buy a brand new one, that's going to be about $8,000. That's $8,000 for a brand new WR450, and that's not even factoring in turning it into a supermoto. you know, after you turn it into a supermoto, if you're talking brand new, you're looking at, is this guy turning? What's he doing? Oh no, he's not. You know, after you factor in the motard stuff, you're looking at about 10 grand or more, depending on what kind of motard shit you get. So really, it puts a hurting on the wallet. But it's still a great bike if you have the money for it. But the only downside is to it, which we'll compare to the other bikes later, is that the WR450 is a dirt bike. It's not a dual sport, which means maintenance is going to be a little hard for those of you that are, you know, not as, you know, tech savvy or mechanically savvy with a motorcycle. You know, you're going to have a lot more frequent oil changes. Like, you know, Jake TheGardenSnake, you know, he's got a WR450 Supermoto, and, you know, he even says himself that he does an oil change about every 500 miles. And, you know, that's nothing to shake a stick at. That's, you might think 500 miles, that's not that bad, but I mean, think about it. When, oh shit, they redid this road, fuck yeah, we're gonna break out the longboard on this smooth ass shit. Finally. But think about it, on this DR, the service manual says I only have to change the oil every 4,000 miles. So just keep that in perspective. Jake on his WR, according to what he says that he goes by, he would have to change his oil, you know, 8 times before I change mine once. You know, that could add up quickly. And with it being a dirt bike, we'll get to this earlier, with it being a dirt bike, it doesn't really have the power band really meant for like highway stuff, but we'll get to that later. We'll jump into that later. Then we move on to the DRZ. You know, the DRZ is kind of like the middleman, like I was saying. And you know, the DRZ it doesn't really get close to the WR as far as performance, and we're talking about stock. We're not going to talk about mods or anything like that. We're just talking strictly stock at the moment. You know, in stock fashion, the WR is way outperforms the DRZ. I mean, it doesn't make it look like complete shit, but it still outperforms the DRZ. But since the DRZ is not as, you know, technical and doesn't have as much high-tech shit in it, you can get a DRZ for a better price. And because it's more simpler tech, there's a lot less that can go wrong with it, and it scores some points in reliability over the WR as well. So as far as the DRZ is concerned, you know, it's got points on the WR as far as its price and its reliability. And for those of you that, you know, are a sucker for convenience, you know, the DRZ from Suzuki is the only factory available bike in a supermoto trim in America here. You know, that's like the only bike that I know of. I'm pretty sure it's the only bike that you can get in full-on supermoto trim. And, you know, anything else you buy, you're going to have to convert. So that's a good plus. And then, you know, according to the DR, you know, in retrospect or comparison to the DR650, the DRZ has pretty similar. I mean, it's slightly lower, and we're talking about it's so slightly, it's not even really worth mentioning. But the weight to power ratio in between the DRZ and the DR650 is pretty much the same. So you may be like, oh, well, so, you know, the DR650 and the DRZ are pretty even on performance then, right? And it's like, as far as horsepower, yes, but you have to consider the weight. You know, a DRZ comes in at, I think, like, what is it, like, somewhere's around 300 pounds? Somewhere's like that? I could be off by a couple pounds, but I'm pretty sure, last time I checked, that the DR650 weighed 60 pounds more than a DRZ. So they're even, right? Well, no, because, I mean, as far as power, yeah. But maneuverability, flickability, the tightness you can take turns is going to be completely different on the DRZ because it's lighter. You can really flick it a lot faster and a lot harder. And it's just going to maneuver better than a DR650 because of that lighter weight. But as far as on a power to weight ratio, they're pretty equal. Then let's go ahead and jump to the DR650. Now, as I said in the beginning, you know, the DR650 is like the exact opposite pretty much of the WR. And what I mean by that is, okay, the DR650 out of all three of these bikes has the absolute worst performance compared to these bikes. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, this DR650 is horrible. It really is not. It has plenty enough power to keep you entertained, to put a smile on your face, and, you know, it's got plenty of fucking pull. But because it is such older tech, you know, it's basically it's at the bottom of the food chain as far as these bikes are concerned on performance. But that's, like I said, because it's older tech. But that older tech has a plus side to it. That means way older tech, it's a more simply designed machine. It's a simpler machine than the other bikes, which means it's going to score huge points in reliability. I mean, put this into perspective. I know definitely not a WR. Maybe a DRZ, maybe. But there are plenty of DR650s out there with more than 100,000 miles on them, and they're still running fucking strong. You know, if that doesn't say something about its reliability, I don't know what does. You know, it's an air-cooled, oil-cooled bike. You know, there's not a whole lot to it. There's not a whole lot to go wrong with this bike. But the reason why I say it gets hurt in performance is because it's making about the same power to weight ratio as a DRZ, but it's a fat fucking bike. It is a very heavy bike. I think it comes in somewhere around like 360 pounds, which is not ideal for a supermoto, because a WR, I think, I might fuck this up, so someone may have to correct me, but I think a WR comes in around like 260, somewhere around there. You know, I don't know the exact weight after you do the motard conversion, but I believe the wet weight from the manufacturer says 260. So, you know, it's 100 pounds less than this. And it makes the same power as a WR. The dyno charts are pretty similar as far as the DR650 and the WR. But yet the WR weighs 100 pounds less. So that's going to mean a couple things, you know. Easy maneuverability, easy fucking wheelies. I mean, this bike, I will tell you from personal experience, is hard as hell to fucking wheelie. Not saying it's impossible, because I have got it to 12 o'clock in first gear. And, you know, and I'm not the best person with my timing, so I'm sure someone more experienced could easily get this thing to wheelie. But the bottom line is, the WR with its lighter weight is going to wheelie better. You know, you've seen in my vlogs, I've had this thing up to like 90, and it's not even really shaking all that much. I mean, of course, it doesn't have that much in it, because it's just a, you know, it's just a dual sport, and then, you know, they're not known for their speed. They're more known for their low-end torque, which, you know, of course, this bike has plenty of. I mean, see, it's got plenty of fucking legs to go. So anyway, with the DR650, even though it weighs more, and it may not be the most powerful thing, the extra CCs does give it a leg over of the other bikes when it comes to highway performance. You know, it's going to be less buzzy, and the extra weight means that it's going to be more comfortable going fast, which means, you know, if you've ever took like a dirt bike or something at high speeds, it doesn't take much wind to try to blow you off of your course. But with the DR650, with it being such a fat ass, going faster on the DR650 is going to be more comfortable, because you're not going to get blown around by the wind. You know, and that's just like when people say, you know, oh, R1s are more comfortable on the highway than an R6, because of the extra weight, they feel more planted. And plenty of R1 owners will tell you this. They used to own an R6. They'll tell you they like the feel of an R1 at speed, because the heavier weight makes it just feel more planted, and it doesn't get beat up by the wind. And that's the same thing with the DR650. But anyway, if you guys have anything to add, if there's anything I missed, if there's anything you, I don't know, disagree with for some reason, you know, let me know in the comments. And hopefully you guys did enjoy the vlog. And if you did, be sure to give it a like. I always appreciate that. Lets me know I'm doing a good job. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Later!
we can see past the fog.